do with a wave. And so that was neat. And then in psychology, the coordination of processes in the nervous system, including a diverse sensory information and motor impulses. So yeah, none of that really helps us directly tell you what integration is. And I'm sure that the definitions in terms of Gnosis are just as helpful.
So, when you mentioned the neurobiological processes, to me, what always flashes to me is the amazing feedback loop system that is part of the human body and the neuro-linguistic system.
So a good way for us to start, just
If
as
you're
a
not
curve.
online, it doesn't matter.
She just did it.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the New Thought in World Religion class, take 2. It is presented by Greg and Rachel Lee. Unfortunately, Mr. James and Miss Jim are having to skip a week. Mr. James is not feeling well, and so Rachel and I have filled in for them. We are talking today about Gnosis and Integration. We don't know which one yet. In no particular order. A good way to start is for both of us, maybe, to say what those words mean to us. And then we can kind of compare and contrast the differences between our conceptualizations. So I would begin with Gnosis. And Gnosis to me is the seeing, the knowing. That's generally what Gnosis actually means, is knowing. And when I use the term, it means knowing with a capital K, knowing with surety, see because you can see it, because you have experienced it. The surety that comes from experience combined with knowledge. There's a little bit of history in Gnosis as well. It stems from the Gnostics, which we could get into a little bit as an early kind of, what in some schools of thought, a branch of Christianity, and in some other schools, kind of the foundation of Christianity itself. Were the Gnostics who told or interpreted the stories differently. And what it has come to today is a Gnostic is one that knows, kind of. And that's not a solid definition, but there is a definition, and that's all we're really looking for, is one that knows, has experienced Gnosis. Because Gnosis can be both a moment in time and a way of life, as we were talking about in the car. And then for integration, sure. Oh, no, yeah.
Just for the sake of staying on the same thread, I'd like to share mine here instead of going to integration. So, very similar, of course, to Greg's understanding, but I would say that I have an understanding of Gnosis being standing in truth. It's very much an action. It's very much moment by moment. That is something that is so fleeting and also forever. It's being in the vortex. It's you can use a lot of language here, but it's being exactly where you want and hope to be, because there's the place where there is no doubt. Gnosticism, or being a Gnostic, those are applications of Gnosis. So I would call a person a Gnostic if they lived in truth, if there was no doubt. John?
My understanding of Gnosis, too, or Gnostics, is it's knowledge via experiential. That it's
Yes, the gathering, and so that's kind of how we fit together. Gnostic is a lot of knowledge-based knowledge gathering through experiential and through good old book learning. You know you have to know it. When you know it, you can apply it, and that applying it would be what we call integration. You can know a truth but not live it, and then it is useless to you. You know, it is not being made manifest, because you may know something intellectually but not be able to actually put it into practice and make it affect your life, the real world, anything you're doing today or forever. Do we want to ask each other for the mic, or do we want to just like pass it? And if I'm okay, and if I'm like floundering, I'm like okay, perfect. So integration then can be conceptualized as there are many individual threads to pull. If you've listened to some of my other talks, I talk about kind of the threads of reality, and those threads can be chased and found via knowledge. And so as you journey outside of your core being into a library of knowledge, you can call it the Akashic Record, you can call it a literal library, you can call it whatever you want, because we're just doing stuff. But as you reach out there, you find something. You find knowledge. You find a truth. You find wisdom. You find a lie. You find something, and then you decide whether to integrate it into your way of being, into your way of knowing, into your bubble, so to speak. And you have the choice. If you are not consciously deciding whether to integrate or discard, stuff is just affecting you without you really consciously knowing it, because you aren't seeing it. And so, for example, I'll give an actual practical example of this, okay? I walk over to that bookshelf. I find a book on a particular type of meditation technique that involves me raising my hand over my head for 10 minutes, and it meditates, and it helps me to find and see God. And that's what the book tells me. So I've learned some particular person's knowledge. I have learned someone's understanding. If I go home and every day meditate with my hand over my head, I have integrated that knowledge into my life. If it works and I find use from it, I have then integrated the knowledge, integrated the knowing that I have received from outside of my little s self. Yeah? I see eyebrows, and I really want to give you the yeah.
I disagree. I think it's so much more complex than that, which is why Greg came with the word gnosis and I came with the word integration. On the way over here, I was saying my bridge between the two of us, I was really excited by the thought of Gnosis being that, that divine clarity, those moments when we're like, oh my gosh, and it goes everywhere. You can see all of the implications in an instant, right? Instantly in your life, you're like, this changes everything. Flash. All the things that I need to do differently, or all the people that I need to treat differently, or all the places I need to stop going or start going, or whatever. You can see it all. That's the integration. Is the application, right? You have the information, you have the gnosis, you get your download, but if you actually want to hold on to it, you have to do all of the actions that you understand you have to do in that moment. You can't then be confronted with fear. You can't be confronted with the anxiety of being able to enforce all of these new rules or boundaries or anything else. You just have to confidently step toward the thing. And if you do that, you'll do it. All the stuff is just going to happen. It doesn't matter how overwhelming it is or how many things you think you have to do. If you start walking toward it, you have integrated it. But it's nuanced to these really subtle levels of even our energy needs to align, because I can go home and I can hold my hand over my head and I can meditate, but if I don't understand what he was talking about when he talked about meditation, I'm just sitting with my hand over my head.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that it, you know, of course, it cuts both ways.
Yes.
If you have gnosis or if you have a misconception that you integrate, then it, like in a tapestry, or, you know, if you pull the one, it all pulls, the whole thing shifts. And
The I was getting ready.
So the way that I conceptualize it actually is, I've been referring to it lately because I am crazy at this point with my vocabulary and the things that I'm bold enough to say out loud. If you just visualize reality like a bubble, and we're all just floating around inside of it, there are some representations of what that could look like on its outer edges, if you will, with my words. On the outer edges of our reality are fixed points. Sacred geometry could specifically identify them. Archangels reference them, regardless of what you want to call them. Right in the center of this bubble thing is where we would find source. And so if we're floating around in our bubble and we want to become closer and closer to source, we're tuning in. And so when we find these moments of clarity, these realizations, this gnosis, we're tuning into various points so that we can be fixed at the center. But it's based on frequency, and so we're going to be ever changing in that and ever moving, always toward the center, but sometimes moving around it instead of into it, because we don't know quite which way to go all the time. But it's certainly up or in.
So it's actually the same. If you look at a cone from the top, up is in. And the light cones that intersect into the now, the light cones of the past and the future, it is inward, but also upward and in the center, and irrelevant. Moving on. Integration. Okay. Well, so if you use integration as here's how you create your reality, that's where I was going.
Yeah. Well, the application.
The application of information to what end? Creating your own reality to whatever end you so decide. One of the first things.
As I'm hearing you talking about Gnosis and integration, my experience is that Gnosis just comes. Okay, so when we're ready, and when I'm ready, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, because long before I was into any of this, in a time when I really thought God was just a myth and something that was used to hurt people, I'm doing my grandmother's hair one day, and I go into a moment where I could have lived in that moment forever. And it was just a thing I did all the time. Every week I did her hair. I didn't ask for it, although I think I asked for it. But
I think you did too.
Right, that I asked for it, that happened. But the thing is, the action that I take, the work toward integration of any of those things, even the Abraham things coming to me, I think that the gnosis comes first, and I think the integration begins there. It is not, you don't have to do it consciously. The only reason to do it consciously is it just comes faster and the journey is easier.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Another conception here. Yeah. So two things. The gnosis in the moment. Yes, you can use gnosis as another term from that, for like enlightenment, or from like a thought form, a source download, whatever you want to call it. But like gnosis. can happen in that, it does happen in that instant, that flash of understanding. The entirety of all that is kind of downloaded into your feeble human brain that cannot hold it. You can't have it all in here, in your meat suit. And so the integration is choosing or trying your best to keep as much as you can. The other thing was oh yes, it is. So that flash, Gnosis, that flash used like enlightenment and everything, but it is also a way of life. Yes.
So listening to what you guys are saying, I kind of feel like, because you said alignment a while ago, and I kind of feel like it's feeling into alignment. You're feeling that vibration, you're feeling what aligns with you, and so then you're feeling into that alignment rather than trying to think into that alignment.
Yes, the synthesis of both of those is where the real magic happens.
Yes, I would say ideally at your subtler and more nuanced levels, even down to your feelings. That is the ideal way to integrate. That is the easier way, simpler way. I'll scratch that and say simpler way to integrate. If you don't operate down to those subtler levels, if you don't get emotionally involved in your integration process, honestly, you're going to go through a few cycles of hitting your head against a wall before you get the job you're actually hoping for, or get out of that relationship or find the thing, and you're going to wonder why you're stuck in the same loop. You're going to see the loop, and it's going to be maddening, but all it comes down to is how wholly you're living outside of that loop, because Gnosis is outside of time. It can't happen in a moment because all it is touching the edge of the bubble. You touched outside, and you can't even define what it is that you touched because we don't have words for that. It's source. It's within, it's with that. It's, however you want to conceptualize it. John, yes.
It kind of coming off of your comment was when we have thoughts, then the emotions that evolve from those thoughts can be a big informer as to whether or not we want to integrate those thoughts and manifestations.
Your moral compass.
into our integration.
In a way, yes. You're told all the time. We are all told all the time what living in alignment looks like. I mean, you can feel it. You know. So that if you don't know, then that's what you're looking for. But Gnosis is knowing what you're looking for and knowing how to live in, like knowing the signs when you see them as like guideposts. Very Celestine prophecy. The synchronicities that occur in your day-to-day life are the external feelings. Kind of the feelings that your body doesn't do, but the outside world does for you. That being able to see them because you have an understanding of why they exist and why they are being presented to you. That's the Gnosis, and then the integration is what to do with it. I wanted to talk about
Just for a second, I wanted to say, in my own personal experience, I have found a connection between to speak another language. If your chakras are in alignment and you're living in that synchronicity and you're feeling really good, when those downloads, those messages, those prayers, those meditations are really good for you and you're getting great information, it is easier to integrate. It feels congruent with what you're doing. But if you are not aligned, if you are misaligned, if you are not finding it easy, if you are diseased, there are some barriers in place that will make it more challenging, and so it is more difficult to work on these things, and there's going to be different work in your integration process because it'll feel incongruent, and so you might initially resist, I guess.
When I feel that resistance or felt that resistance, that came very, very low vibrational very body centric. Your higher self is the one you're trying to tune into. You're trying to tune into a higher is not right, but like your self, capital S self, is the frequency you're trying to, or you are tuning into, that allows you to live your highest and best self. I want to keep a lot of this very practical. Is what I'm kind of wanting to do with this. It's like, yay, all well and good. We've defined these terms, but like, what does that actually mean for my daily life? And it's the I'm a big Gnosis guy. I'm a big knowing guy because I want to know everything that's happening all the time, both internally and externally. And what I wanted to provide another baser, more physical type, like a human experiential thing that I think a lot of people would be able to resonate with a little bit. So I think, and it's very common, at least in the circles that I run in, and I would posit it's common in lots and lots of circles, but almost now, like a lot of the people you run around and you talk about have at least some will acknowledge that they have an understanding or a knowledge of these types of topics. Yeah, there's more than the physical reality. You know, like a near-death experience, an out-of-body experience, or an integration with like an interface with an angel or something. Most people have had some sort of experience. We have had these experiences. Are you
It's not that.
you want to go? Oh.
Hi, sorry, what's happening is we're working on being impeccable, and I have been working on the two of us using the word they in conversation, because that's funny, right? If you actually think about it, there's no they. We know and we've experienced and we have, is all I would say.
Yes.
There you go.
So the example I was trying to do is you're talking with a friend and they've taken drugs, like they've taken a drug trip or something like that. They tripped on mushrooms and they come down from their trip and they're like, man, I gotta stop smoking cigarettes. You know, I know I'm supposed to stop smoking cigarettes. You know, it's bad for me. I understand. My body told me to stop. I reject this action that I'm taking. Right? That's Gnosis, a thought form download that I know to stop smoking cigarettes. And it doesn't have to be a drug trip, but like you can do that just sitting on your room. But these are the types of things when I'm talking about like Gnosis is you receive a download of information that you just know because it resonates with you so. And then you go buy a pack of smokes. We go buy a pack of smokes. And you didn't integrate. We didn't integrate. Okay, we didn't integrate. Then that your friend, our friend, didn't integrate the Gnosis, the knowledge that like he understands. I'm going to use this, my friends, because this has happened in my life. You know, they have, you have an experience and get information, of course. And they'll go, of course I know smoking's bad for me. Of course I know I'm supposed to stop. All of this, I know this, but I'm not applying it because I didn't integrate it. And the integration is the change, the stopping smoking.
Well, the full integration would be the stopping smoking, but sometimes the integration process involves I am no longer buying cigarettes, and also I don't go outside on smoke breaks, because also I'm not bumming cigarettes, because also I don't want to be around people who smoke cigarettes. You know, I gotta get rid of my ashtrays, and also I gotta not even think about my ashtrays, so they gotta leave the house. And like, I used to sit outside on this swing and I smoke, and so now I'm moving the chair out here instead of the swing because this needs to be a different place because it's for something else now. And it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes, and every time you have a hang up and every time you're up against the thing that you're changing, the thing that you're integrating, the thing that you're working on, if you find an obstacle, move it. Move it. Get rid of it. Whatever it is, there is actually an answer to solve whatever your obstacle is. I promise you, every single time. All your excuses are lies.
Exactly. It's as you change, when you integrate, you change the bearing, the heading on the ship of your life as you tunnel through time. You make the choice. In this future, in this reality, I smoke cigarettes and will until I die. In this reality, I don't. They're separated by nothing but the now. Right? They are overlapping, and you can just choose to be in a different reality. And this is why I take a little bit of. I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go there.
Why not?
John?
I was going to give an example of how that Gnosis and integration kind of can come together too, is that with smoking. So in July of '08, I was running the very first 5K I've ever run in Unity of Springfield, which is a rather pretty little town. And I was going up this hill and gasping for breath. And I had this gnosis that I really appreciate breathing way more than the enjoyment I get from smoking. And which followed very closely within hours later was the realization and choice to set a boundary, which is when I became the decision I made where I then was divorced a few months later. That was, and I hadn't smoked since before, like a few days before that. I started, I quit a few days before that.
The ripples grow and grow and grow and grow from any change in the now. I mean, you made a choice called running to stop smoking, and it altered everything. Because it does. Because again, when you make a choice and you veer a little bit in one direction or another, it seems like nothing because in the now they all overlap. But carried forth 10 years into the future, one day into the future, carried forth on and on and on, there is no future or past, it's all in the now. But carried forth into lots of different nows, the changes grow and grow and grow. Which is what I want to talk about in terms of actually making these changes in your life, because reality itself in time has inertia, and you're this physical 3D realm has inertia that is pushing against you, and I want to get into that after.
And it's always, for me, it's not always logical either. That knowing may not always be logical, that knowing of I'm taking this road instead of that road may not always be logical, but you know that you need to take that road. And so that's the road you go down because you know that's where I need to go. Yeah.
Right. So, oh yeah.
Well, I was that made me think of sometimes we don't have all of the knowledge in Gnosis. Mm-hmm. We have a knowing, but we don't have, we have a limited capacity to
hold the actual ones and zeros in there. Aha. That was a joke. So yes, the inertia of life, the inertia of this physical incarnation. As you know something, and as you change your heading, because in the next dimension up, your thoughts and your emotions and everything are made manifest instantly. But in this one, stuff takes time. You have to pay time to do it. Now, your thoughts don't pay very much time because they are so fast. But physical changes in this 3D reality take time, and they have inertia. One of the to provide an exact example, we're going to keep with the smoking metaphor because this has been working out for us. An example of inertia would be you decide to stop smoking, and so you don't buy cigarettes, but then you buy nicotine patches, or you buy the gum, and the change itself in your life takes a lot of time, and eventually, and you do all the things that Rachel Rachel talked about with like, you gotta get rid of your ashtrays, you gotta blah, 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 take all these actions. That's the inertia of your old life kind of weighing on you and pushing against you. There is the other alternative to that is you can, as we say, pop out of the toaster. You can know it and immediately make that change, and you are living in a different reality with a different bearing at that time. And you would go home, say from your run, and you're like, why are these ashtrays in my house? What? I'm not that person. And so it's not even you don't have to fight every step of the way. Oh, I got to get rid of these ashtrays. Oh, I got to move this chair. You can just live renewed. You can live new. Now, one of the cautions, the caveats to popping out of the toaster, which I've run face first into many times, is continuity. Continuity of our shared creation, our shared reality that we're all in. Example, right now, today, I decide to become a skydiving expert. Not only expert, but like teacher, like Red Bull, X Games. I'm going to be the skydiver that jumps out of that plane into another plane wearing a Red Bull helmet. Like that's who I am now. I have made that course change. That is disruptive to my life. It is possible. I can choose that right now and go do that. Every step I take has to be in that direction. And the amount of ripples a change like that, I mean, that would destroy all that I have, all of my inertia. I'm going in a direction. I can't, when you course change and do like this, it's like gravity. If you've ever seen a spaceship go, I'm sorry, I've been able to go.
No, I just wanted to chime in really quick and say that this problem of inertia, this like strong veering that we have to do to go in a completely different direction to integrate something, that's a fundamental problem that you're up against. It's going to be a big one. And if you want to pop out of the toaster, we have to understand that we're actually ripping some stuff. It hurts.
Beautiful.
So you can. Most people, most of us, prefer not to do things that way. I said us, and that's the same. Yes.
Hey, that's beautiful.
So, the smoking analogy loses me completely, simply because the Gnosis understandings that come to me would never tell me what to do in the physical world, would never tell me to stop smoking. And those kind of hints a lot of times can be my addictive behavior, or something that feels like I've got to take this drastic step and stop doing something here or start doing something here. But the Gnosis information is an information about a way of perceiving and feeling, and all of the information that I get that says I have to stop doing something or do something in the physical world, to me it's a lie. It's a lie I'm telling myself about that. So when I get direction, my direction is never, Wendy, stop doing this. Wendy, start doing this. Wendy, go here.
Yeah.
My direction is, you are loved, all is well. This is a good path. This will be a good path to stay on for a while, but I don't have to. And any path I go, it will still support me.
Absolutely.
So I'm just trying to. It doesn't make sense. And the thing you said about Abraham would call that a quantum leap. She says you can do quantum leaps, but quantum leaps are not fun.
Exactly. They tear stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would like to, John.
So you were talking about inertia, and but the non-judgmental part of me says, well, the good part of inertia is that So back in 1991, I started jogging 2 miles a day. I did it after I quit smoking. I did it all the way up, and there were times when I wasn't smoking during those years. But that began an inertia. That behavior change then was an inertia that made the later on Gnosis possible.
Yes. The speed that you're going is kind of what the inertia, the momentum. Now, to basically reply directly to Wendy, yes, and it is, for me, it is not a start smoking, stop smoking, anything like that. Gnosis is the place where it's you are loved, and I'm going to treat reality kind of here as a flat plane, the ocean that we're swimming in, and that has the inertia and carries us. When you pop out, when you're experiencing the Gnosis itself, the moment, the flash, and you have it all, you are outside of time at that point. That's where all these thought forms reside, and up there, well, clumsy, but out there is only the feeling that you are loved, you are safe, you are whole, you are everything, you are infinite, you are divine, you are me, we are we, all of that stuff. That's the feeling. That's all up there. Now, when I'm up there, conceptually, I navigate. It's more than just feeling that, but I go places there because there when you're out there is no there, so every there is the same there. And so instead of it being a start smoking or stop smoking, I view my life in a lot of cases, and I'm able to see. Weed out that's how I can choose the direction my life is going. And so instead of it being like, oh, your higher self says stop smoking, you are, as my higher self, I view two different realities, or rather infinite different realities, but we're going to call it two for the sake of this. One where I keep smoking and one where I stop. And I see my life in 80 years or 50 years or whatever it is, like, am I going to be smoking when I'm 60, and is that what I would like to choose? Am I going to stop smoking right now today, and what does that life look like? This is the life that I want. I'm like, oh, I want to be a famous X Games athlete. He doesn't smoke. Well, he probably does. But like, to be, I'm a health nut, that's what I want to be. That person doesn't smoke. And so it's not, when I come back to the now, I stop. Cool. Okay. Gnosis and Integration.
I was just going to add real quick that I think it all comes down to whether or not this is something that is congruent with who you are and who you want to be. There are some people that smoking is congruent with the type of life that they want to have, and this is not going to be a metaphor that works for them. Insert conflict here. However, in Greg's case, if he were building an entire life the way that he has been, and he's like built up a family, and he's got like a brick and mortar business, and he's like planting roots in the community, and then he decides skydiving. That's not necessarily congruent with the life that he's been living. And so unless he is prepared to change absolutely everything all the way down to all of the levels, that's not something that's going to stick. Typically, when you have one of these knowings, though, it's because it's something that resonates so deeply with you that it is only congruent, right? Because that's Gnosis. It is it. And so when you touch it, you get to decide how you're going to apply it. It's again, it's to use another like example, I guess, but it's still not. It's so much subtler than this, even Wendy. But like when you have these Gnosis moments, sometimes it is just you feel your lungs. you can just feel your lungs and you feel how good oxygen is, and you're just breathing, and in one moment you're like, ugh, cigarettes are not congruent with this. And it might be how you apply it, but it's at no moment where you like, necessarily I have to stop smoking. It's a behavior, it's a feeling, it's emotional, but we have to put it into literal action sometimes. But only sometimes. Sometimes this gnosis, this knowing, has nothing to do at all with physical reality and everything to do with your own internal dialogue and the way you interact with a person, and no one else will ever even know it happened.
Sometimes we don't even.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I was in a class when I was taking a personal training thing, and I heard this person talk about all the really cool stuff that's in soda bottle. And whether it had sugar in it, or whether it had fake sugar in it, and phosphoric acids, and all this stuff. And about a couple months later, after that lecture, I realized I hadn't had a soda in over 30 days, and I didn't consciously quit. I just started drinking iced tea
Yeah.
with no sugar.
It's like you
Unsweetened iced
developed
tea.
an aversion almost without even having chosen it.
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
So there's no value judgment in the choices that you make for your life. Every choice you make is right. Every life you live is right because it's your own. So there wasn't like, oh, smoking bad, or oh, smoking wrong, or skydiving bad. None of that. You are all of these things simultaneously, and you holding your infinite selves with a capital S, holding all of what you are, means that you don't have to we don't have to be, we can let it go, right? We don't have to feel bad about any choice that we make.
Yeah, a few years ago, I was in a mental health unit, and whenever I got out, the caseworker come to my house and went to my refrigerator, and I had one strawberry daiquiri wine coolers in my refrigerator. And she said, are you supposed to have the wine coolers in my refrigerator? I said, I'm 21 years old. I am legally, I can have them in my refrigerator. And I said, I don't feel like it is voiding my mental health obligation to the mental health system if I got them in there. I said they've been in there for over a year. I bought a 6-pack and there's 4 of them still left in the refrigerator. I said, that ought to tell you that I'm not addicted to it.
Exactly.
And so and they also said that I would have to take psychiatric medication for the rest of my life. So in 2011, whenever I found Unity in A Course in Miracles, I got off the psychiatric medication.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on any psychiatric medication since then.
Wonderful.
So I feel like that
Thank you.
the systems does not always fit every individual.
Oh, of course. Attachments is what that comes down to. Is the drinking, the smoking, the psychiatric medication. If we define ourselves by our attachments, that makes the inertia and the friction and all of this stuff. It makes you go. It makes it harder to change because you are so attached to the reality around you. If you want to change your life immediately, you remove all of your attachments. If you want to be anything, all of your attachments go away. Now, I have attachments that I have chosen. My wife, my family, my business, my life's path, because I've selected an end goal. So I feel fine and good about accumulating attachments. because that's to that end. Because that is the point of the life, is to choose it and live it to the fullest.
To do everything to that.
To do everything to that end. And so everything else, everything that is superfluous, is an attachment that I do my very best. My work, is to make sure that those attachments do not cling to me. My boundaries are strong enough that I am not beholden to anything but myself. I guess big S.
I'm just wondering if anybody else has an example of an experience of gnosis, like just a sudden knowing.
Well, sometimes it doesn't, is this on?
Yeah.
It doesn't always come the way you think it will. My son asked me to quit smoking. I think he was in first grade. And I went to the lake for the weekend by myself without any cigarettes, and I haven't had a cigarette since. And my husband at the time smoked. I didn't have to remove ashtrays. I didn't have to do anything because I had that desire to be the kind of mom that my son wanted me to be. And so sometimes you get led because of your
Attachments.
will lead you in a way that will deliver you from any of the repercussions. And so, you just kind of, and one of the things I was thinking was on integration. I've been listening to Sonia Choquette that James has been talking about last week. And one of the things that she says that helps you to feel that is to dance. And it's not the kind of dance that you're doing ballroom steps. It's just to dance because you're feeling it. And that brings that feeling to you that begins to allow you to let other things in your life flow. And so that's one of the ways that you can begin to feel integration is to be able to put yourself in a place where you release and you just let yourself feel.
And so that's something that that you have experienced.
Yes.
Okay. And tell us about that experience that you had and not anyone else's.
Well, there's certain music. I walked into a trading post in Colorado, and there was this music going that I could not keep my feet still. And so when I walked out of that trading post, I had that CD with me, and that's so not typical of things that I do. But when I hear that kind of flute or that kind of drumming or that kind of music, you just want to move. You just feel it so much that it kind of takes over you, and you just flow with it.
It's riding the wave. It's totally congruent with who you are and what you're doing, and that's a synchronicity. When you encounter something like that, that's an application. That's one of the many situations where you could enter a flow state and know something. Dancing, yes, fluid movement. I mean, think about how funny it would be if you were really angry and you tried to dance. You're just gonna punch and kick stuff. That's absurd. I mean, if you actually tried to start dancing when you were angry, you're not going to be angry for very long because you're going to feel just ridiculous.
She mentions flow state. My work is to maintain a constant level of flow state. The feeling of this music that makes you want to dance, every moment of your now can be that way. If you so choose. But it is just choosing. And in order to choose it, you have to see it. And which brings us back to gnosis. In order to see it, you have to know it. Or vice versa. Know the value of it. It's the seeing and the knowing. And so when we choose to see it, choose to know it, and choose to live it, we get to live there every moment of our lives. Every now, John. 5 minutes, not a wave. He wasn't waving. He was communicating information. The Did you want to?
No.
Yeah, Don. That was a win.
Down in front.
Yeah. This Gnosis business is, it doesn't have, for me, it didn't have to come suddenly.
Mhm.
It was something that was growing.
We like that.
It started out with, I came from a blue collar family. And I decided that I wanted to break that tendency to go up and to grow up and be a janitor or something. And so getting back to that smoking thing, it was only part of it. I had to go to a college. The college was a church college, and they wouldn't let me smoke. So it was just a decision that had to be made to stay on that track, and the thing became a direction of life that happened to include the decisions that led to one, to another, and it kept getting better and better and better as I went along.
Yep.
So it's kind of like you make a little change like that. Here, it's kind of like in geometry.
Yep.
If you go far enough out,
Every change matters. And so all the changes,
bigger and bigger. Yeah.
yeah. The changes can be as trivial or as monumental as you decide you want them to be. We want them to be.
And they tend to grow with time. Yeah.
Yes. Even the most trivial of change right now, today, in this now, can change everything in 10 years for you. For you, maybe not for everyone else. Someone may stay on their course.
Well, and I think when you're talking about our big S selves, so our big S selves is always trying to guide us into our flow state. And so if we are coming down and listening on that each level, then it's always going to try to guide us. Even when we start to get off track, it's going to try to push us back onto, hey.
Coherence. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you want to wrap it up? Do your radio sign off? What a big show.
I think I'd like to just take 2 minutes even. Let's just take 2 minutes, and we're just going to do a quiet meditation, and we will meditate on what you know or what your integration process is. Let's work on integrating something for yourself. You do know something.
If you've changed any sort of consciousness, bring that into yourself and apply it.
He's looking at you.
yourself back to the now. Oh yeah, everyone put money in this basket. Announcements. Announcements. All right. There is still time to register. Sorry, that was our show. Thanks everybody. That's all, folks. There's still time to register for the Infinite Possibilities 3-week workshop, which starts today at 1 p.m. This workshop is based on the best-selling book, Infinite Possibilities, The Art of Living Your Dreams, by Mike Dew, and will be facilitated by Freeman Payne, an internationally certified Infinite Possibilities instructor. The cost is $25 and covers all 3 weeks and the workbook. If you'd like to attend and haven't already signed up, please do so right after service in the foyer so we can make sure we have enough workbooks for everyone. The Soulful Food group will meet today at 4 p.m. This is a women's group that provides emotional eating support. If you have any questions or would like to join, please contact Kat Bell. The men's group will meet at the church this Thursday, January 11th at 10 a.m. This group meets the second and fourth Thursdays of each month and discusses a variety of topics. All men are welcome to join at any time. The mat makers will have their last meeting of the season this week on Thursday at 10 a.m. So far, they have completed 89 mats on their journey to 100. Several will continue to weave mats at home. They do not need any more plastic bags, thanks to everyone who donated and helped with this life-saving project. Next Sunday, January 14th at 9:15 a.m. in the New Thought World Religion Sunday School class, James Masters and Jennifer Baker-Jones will continue with part 3 of Ask Your Guides. It's probably going to be part 2 or 2 and 3 combined. We'll find out. Oh, right. It might not even be that. So, like, no attachments. The age group will not be meeting on Saturday, January 13th. Meetings will resume on Saturday, January 20th. We will do an all-church visioning on Saturday, January 13th at 10 a.m., facilitated by Sue and based on Dr. Michael Beckwith's Dr. Michael Beckwith's visioning process. Through a guided meditation, we will open ourselves up to Spirit, asking what is the highest vision for Unity of Springfield? What wants to emerge as us? All are welcome to participate. We talked about exactly that when we were deciding the courses of our life. And this is exactly the same thing, but for an organization. Also on January 13th, Bobby will facilitate the second Saturday social, Unity, at 1 p.m. This is a social time for all to come together in the spirit of unity over tea or coffee and snacks. Brian and Devin Hoover from Discovering the Soul will facilitate a relationship workshop on Saturday, January 20th from 1 to 3 p.m. Brian says, please join us for this free 2-hour workshop where we will highlight the deeper purpose and potential for the relationship challenges we all face. Our annual meeting of potluck is scheduled for January 28th, right after the service. Please bring a dish to share and plan to stay for the meeting. Members will be voting on the proposed bylaw change of going from 9 to 6 board members and making the spiritual leader a voting member of the board. And those are announcements. Thanks, everyone.